A reading from Isaiah. Let me sing from my beloved, my love song concerning his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a fertile hill. He dug it and cleared of stones and planted it with choice vines. He built a watchtower in the midst of it and hewed out a wine vat in it. He expected it to yield grapes, but it yielded wild grapes. And now, inhabitants of Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more was there to do for my vineyard that I have not done in it? When I expected it to yield grapes, why did it yield wild grapes? And now I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will remove its hedge, and it shall be devoured. I will break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down. I will make it a waste. It shall not be pruned or hoed, and it shall be overgrown with briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the people of Judah are his pleasant planting. He expected justice, but saw bloodshed, righteousness, but heard a cry. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You know, there's a beautiful oak tree in front of my home. It was love at first sight when we were formally introduced over 3 years ago now. I suspect she's a solid 20 feet in diameter at her base, maybe 45 feet tall from top to bottom, probably the largest oak tree in the neighborhood. Certainly the most attractive. I mean, she's gorgeous. In the green months, her sure branches and leaves cover the yard with an incomparable shade. When the fall comes, she shows off her colors and feeds God's creatures with an inexhaustible supply of acorns. She's such a generous tree. Even in the winter, when the temperatures drop and the wind is howling, she stands tall, her nooks and crannies providing shelter. Safe harbor for creatures unable to hibernate when the frost and the frigid nights arrive. My oak tree is the envy of the neighborhood, the prize of my yard. I love that tree. She drives me crazy, though, especially in October. That's when her leaves fall for the entire month, blanketing the driveway with layer after layer of crunchy, heavy carpet. When it gets dry, some of her branches become brittle, snapping and falling under the shrubs with a thud and a trail of damage in their wake. She scratches the gutters of the house, distorts the lines of the sidewalks. She collaborates with several species of winged creatures to leave droppings of who knows what on the hood of our Hondas. Despite my love for her, it almost seems like the oak tree mocks me half the time, pushing my buttons, testing me to see just how deep my love runs. You see, she's a beautiful tree that I want to chop down to a stump on some mornings, but I can't. I won't. The key to appreciating Isaiah 5, 1 through 7 is to hear it as allegory, like the sweet and sour ode to my oak tree. The Isaiah text is a poignant one that sang a lot more than meets the ears. Let me sing from my beloved, the song begins, my love song concerning his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a very fertile hill. He dug it and cleared it of stones and planted it with choice vines. He built a watchtower in the midst of it and hewed out a wine vat in it. He expected it to yield grapes, but it yielded wild grapes. As he sings to the people of God, the prophet Isaiah reminds Israel and Judah that God is their source, the builder of the people, the foundation of their life together. In love for all of creation, God clears the obstacles in the way, cultivates the coming together of the people, and watches over them from a high place. The builder has big plans for those who are planted among the hedges, the tower, and the wine vat, that they will be fruitful, generous, honoring both the keeper of the vineyard and the others who dwell in the space God's created. This vineyard is admired, nurtured, loved to life. But there are also problems with the vineyard, aren't there? Wild grapes, the text says, bitter fruit, choices, attitudes, plans that degrade the vineyard, choke off the good fruit, put stones back into that fertile soil. Is it finished, this unwieldy garden? Is it unworthy of love? Is it time to cut it down? This love song turned lament reminds me of so many of the country songs on my iPod playlist. Songs that tell of broken promises, soured relationships, bleak futures, where there was so much promise before, so much newness of life. Would we fault the builder of the vineyard for taking the axe to all of it? What draws me toward Isaiah 5 this morning is the realization that the vineyard depicted at the heart of this text bears so much resemblance to the one we occupy right now. Isaiah may be speaking to particular people dealing with a particular crisis, but the song is universal. It's relevant right now. Think about it. We know we are blessed beyond measure, situated on good, fruitful soil, yet we recognize fear has entered this vineyard. Decay, maybe decline, a long list of concerns that have us wondering if the future has any hope of equaling the prosperity of the past. We also know that life in this vineyard has been marked by our interdependence, our ability to come together and rise above common challenges when they arrive. Yet right now, we are a hunkered down, suspicious of the other sort of people. We're building our own hedges within the vineyard. We also know that we are loved by the one who built all of this. A God who sees the goodness in each of us that we may not see in the other. Yet we wonder, don't we? We wonder if God's seen enough of our wild grapes, the signs of the times pointing to a vineyard keeper who may be saying enough, who may be pondering a move to a new vineyard somewhere else. Life on the vine is in a state of flux right now, isn't it? Would we blame God if the axe is already sharpened? Well, here's the good news. It comes in two parts. First of all, this isn't the first time there's been upheaval in the vineyard. And second, God gets us. God hears us. God's not going anywhere. Isaiah concludes this tune, this allegory, with a reminder. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the people of Judah are his pleasant planting. He expected justice, but saw bloodshed, righteousness, but heard a cry. The most important lyrics are the last four. But heard a cry. God's beloved ones are going through hell as Isaiah sings to them. But their laments are heard by the one who loves the vineyard, received with compassion, not the swing of an axe. While we may be inclined to take an axe to the vineyard if we're in charge, the builder of all of this cannot, will not. In our season of sour grapes and aftermarket hedges, broken branches, rocky soil, deep division, we are heard, not ignored. Love to life, not left to wither where we're planted. I love my oak tree, but she drives me crazy. I still love my oak tree. Amen.